Rubber Rim Job, Season 3, Episode 3. My brother Jig, we got some ball. These dudes
Got
found
some ball.
ball off yesterday.
We got some ball.
Yep.
I feel good, man. I feel good because I'm not just watching these games by myself anymore.
Uh-oh.
I'm not just sitting there in my bedroom on the phone watching League Pass while my kids are downstairs watching games on the big TV. You know what I'm talking about.
Sounds like you've recruited you drafted a guy to join the watch party.
I drafted a young fella to watch games with me. So last night I got my son hooked in, man. He's been playing ball, as you know. I've been coaching his team, and I can tell you, I know that he's hooked in because he's been launching shots. He's been launching air shots in the house, right? He's doing that thing where he's not just launching air shots. He's jumping up and he's hanging from that little spot above the door,
right.
And he's getting those little fingertips, those dirty fingertip spots where you know what I'm talking about, where you hang on the door frame.
You know, some families have the thing that they measure how tall you get.
Yep.
In basketball houses, we have the fingerprints over the doors where we go around and we dunk on our moms and everything.
Yep, that's exactly right. You don't just dunk. It's when you start somebody. It's when mom's walking.
Can you hand me that thing off the fridge? And she's like, "What are you talking about?" Like just
boom, boom. I remember I started doing it. I remember the first time I figured it out was I was watching Michigan. Sorry, Ohio State fans, but I remember watching Michigan down in the basement.
Okay.
I saw Chris Webber. I can picture it. I can picture it right now. Fab Five, and I saw Chris Webber not just dunk, but dunk and hang and kick those legs up in the air. And I said, man, I'm going to do this.
Absolutely.
I said, I'm going to do this right now. So I looked around and I'm thinking to myself, what can I do this on? And I saw the big brown frame on, I guess what in retrospect would have been one of those low hanging pipes in my basement.
Absolutely.
So I jump up, hang on it, pull it down. And right in that little spot, you could just hear it detach, right? And just over time, it starts pulling out more and more. But I'm thinking to myself, right? That's the rim, man.
Is it?
So I see my son doing it, right? And I'm thinking to myself, man, it's the rite of passage. My wife is yelling at him. She's like, what are you doing?
Got him hooked.
I know what he's doing. He's hooked.
Yep.
So he's sitting. He goes, Dak, I watch the game with you. I'm like, hell yeah, you can watch the game with me. So we're sitting there watching the game till late. I'm like, this kid can stay up. You know, he can watch overtime with me.
Absolutely. Watching the Cavs, you can stay up till 1 a.m.
You're watching the Cavs, you can stay up till this game's over, right? And my wife, she's laying in the bedroom. She had knee surgery, so she didn't even know anyway. She's zonked out. But
shout out to the co-MVP. She's on the men. She's
doing great. She's doing great. She's I'm not going to say her exact age, right? Can't do that. I'm not going to throw her under the bus.
Absolutely.
But she's 15 years older than I was when I had my ACL surgery.
Okay.
And she's doing just as good, which is impressive because I thought I did pretty well. I was walking a few days in. I was I was rocking. And I think she's doing as well or better. So I'm very impressed with Mrs. Gigo. If you want to
shout out to Mama
do
G.
a quick shout out.
Congratulations on a good bounce back.
Good bounce back. So we're watching the game, and I'm gonna stop cooking in a little bit. I'm gonna hand it off to
No, you cook.
I'm gonna hand it off to my man. So we're watching the game, right? We're at the end, last couple minutes. Donovan's already made that steal. Incredible steal. Only a couple guys in the NBA can make that play, right?
He just kind of stuck his arm in there and came out with the ball.
That was incredible.
Right.
And I almost hit him with the if Brooklyn scores here, this game's over. Almost. And I think to myself, man, that is such a Cleveland thing to say. I held on to it. I didn't lay it on him. I did not lay it on him. So I let it simmer. Cavs keep it rolling. They're staying in the game. Donovan's doing Donovan. He's doing Donovan. And I'll be damned if my son doesn't say, I think he's going to hit a 3 right here, Dad. And I'm thinking to myself, this kid's got a different mentality, man.
Isn't that awesome?
That was awesome.
It's like, wait a minute, this is learned. Like I learned how to be this uh, apathetic,
Good
or
point.
like, that's pretty awesome.
It's a good point. So Donovan leans into it. Guy flops. It was definitely a flop.
Cam, what's his name? Johnson.
Johnson
Yeah, Cam
flops.
Johnson like sprung himself. He left
Definitely.
Brooklyn and went over to Manhattan with that flop.
Definitely.
Right.
And regardless, refs did the right thing and they let it go.
Right.
Donovan rises, launches, ball's in the air, and I'm thinking to myself, this little kid's right. This ball's going in.
Dude's calling it.
And it did. It went right in, and I think to myself, okay, now he's hooked.
I like that.
Now he's hooked. He was on the line. Now he's hooked.
Oh no, he's
Me
in.
and him are high-fiving. We're excited. And I'm like, if there's any question, this kid's in for Cavs basketball for life.
So more importantly,
So I was
Cavs winning this game is the fact that this kid Jim Tomied his home run basically.
That's exactly right.
He stepped up to the plate like Jim, and he's pointing to the right field bleacher. Or Albert Bell did it too.
Yes.
So shout out your wingman. Shout out, little man.
Shout out. So
and welcome to the club too. Like it's been a tough 30, almost 40 years as a Cavs fan, but
definitely
there's a whole new horizon that we're getting to experience. So
your generation,
the club, yeah, your whole generation.
Yeah.
Welcome to the
We're
club.
one Cav fan richer at minimum. All right, I'm done cooking. I'm seared.
So I want to get into that game. So I'm gonna start this episode off with my record recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna use that to segue into the game, right?
Please do.
So a couple of days ago, one of my I felt like this guy was like my uncle. One of my celebrity uncles passed away. You know who Richard Roundtree is by chance, dude?
I do.
Okay. So me growing up, one of my best friends was my grandfather, my dad's dad.
I love that.
And as long as I could tolerate Lucky Strike cigarettes, I could
yeah.
As long as I was okay with sitting around, I could hang in his space nonstop. Okay. And we lived walking distance from my grandparents. So that was my safe spot. If I was at home and I was getting in trouble, they're like, "Oh, stop dunking on your mom in the kitchen," or whatever like that. I'm like, you know what? I'm going over to my grandparents' house because they'll let me do what I want to do. And as soon as I got there, my grandfather, he's, "Hey, is that little Joe?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, grab what is it called? Entenmann's cake. What is that brand?
Entenmann's. Yeah, Entenmann's had the donuts and the and the cakes. Yeah. Oh yeah, it was good.
Pops. So he was a delivery driver for GE, but he always found a way to get some cakes and pies and donuts, and they were always in the kitchen. So he called down the stairs, "Hey, tell your grandma to send up that Entenmann's cake. I got you a pound cake or whatever that is, and bring it on up."
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't matter what we were doing. Like he watched pro wrestling a lot of basketball, a lot of boxing, and MASH, those types of shows. But then his guilty pleasure was his blaxploitation films.
Yeah, got to.
I was
Shaft,
7,
man.
Oh man, 7, 8, 9. I definitely shouldn't have been watching this stuff. But
no, that's okay.
At the top of that list was Shaft.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there and we're watching it and everything, and he's breaking down for me, the Isaac Hayes contribution to the soundtrack. And this dude this isn't just a musician. This is a composer. He pointed out everything. By the 10th time I was watching Shaft, I knew it by heart. So to this day, whenever I'm, doing some creative work here or whatever, there's a double album, the Shaft album. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not what you think of when you think of a soundtrack. Sometimes these soundtracks, they'll go and they grab a song from here, a song from there, somebody's like we've been talking about. No, this is an original composition. Isaac Hayes took like 2 or 3 months while he was on the road, and he wrote every song from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
And half of the songs are just score compositions. Like you just let this.
Really? I didn't know this.
Man, so
new to me.
Trust me on this. Like if you, it's I think it's in the Library of Congress. It was his first Grammy, and it changed the landscape for what people did with scores and soundtracks. They were like, "Wait, so
no kidding,
we can make a commercial album out of the score for a movie?" That's what Shaft did.
No kidding.
So
I did not know this.
Yep, 1971 it was released. Oh, so the real quick synopsis of he's from Memphis. The whole Stacks. There was a neighborhood in Southwest Memphis that was like 3 or 4 blocks. And the Stax album, the Stax record company, they bought up everything on those blocks. They had a barbershop, they had grocery store, they had all this kind of stuff. And so it was
Okay.
like an incubated community for like all these musicians. You know, like they had Otis Redding, Booker T and the MGs.
Mm-hmm.
All these people came in from all over, and they were like, "Let's just create something, okay?" And so Isaac Hayes was like one of the. He ran the whole house band, you know, basically,
Okay.
because he was
Yep.
so talented. And so he was super talented. He wanted to do things like get in movies and all that kind of stuff because he was like, "Oh man, I see Jim Brown doing movies, and I see this person and that person doing movies. I want to do that too."
Mm-hmm.
And so he was originally trying to be the lead role in Shaft. So he attacked this with like, you know, just trying to write everything so that he could potentially be it. They went and they got Richard Roundtree instead because they were like,
Mm-hmm.
"Wait, this dude is handsome. This dude is, you know, smooth and suave."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Isaac Hayes was relegated to like a secondary role, but he put everything he had into this album. So a lot of people, their favorite song on there is the title track Shaft. My favorite track is the very next track. It's called Bumpy's Lament. And
Okay.
it's, dude, when you listen to it, you're gonna be like, "Oh my God, I've heard this." It's sampled by Dr. Dre for Explosive. So that song,
Okay.
The Chronic, 2001, Explosive.
I bet I know it, but I can't remember it offhand.
Um, Erykah Badu, Bag Lady sampled that. There's so many songs. Jay-Z sampled it. Like, if you go on like who sampled and stuff, you'll see Bumpy's Lament. It's like 20 or 30 songs deep.
Okay, I'm on there pretty regularly,
Okay,
so
okay.
I'll
So
have to. Yeah, I'll check it out.
if you listen to it, my 3 top songs on the album, if you're just like, you know what, I don't have time to listen to this whole thing, listen to the title track Shaft, listen to Bumpy's Lament, and then I think track 4 is Ellie's theme, Ellie. So Ellie's theme.
Okay.
All 3 of them are like beautiful compositions of music. And the way we segue Shaft into this season is when this game started yesterday, Jig, it looked like a beautiful composition of fast-paced Cavs basketball.
Did. There was that fast pace you asked about.
Man, I'm talking about the Brooklyn Nets didn't know what hit them. They were like, "What the hell is this?" They thought we were going to come out like we did against the Knicks and walk the ball up, take our time, and, you know, get into this slow-paced thing. They had no idea. Like, everybody, all their wings, they were confused that we were running and gunning like they were.
Yep.
And that put us in a position for Strus to. I think he may have had 3 or 4 threes in the first quarter. Just like that ball was just finding him.
He was killing, man.
It was beautiful to see, man. And one of the biggest beneficiaries of this is Isaac Okoro.
Yep.
So because Jared Allen was out, in some weird world, Isaac Okoro started at power forward for the Cavs yesterday. And he not only started at, well, I mean, it wasn't weird because Brooklyn was starting like, I think they started Cam Johnson at power forward. So, you know, he's 6'8", 6'9", but he's 200. And Okoro was like physically moving him out the way. But that dude was just, you know, from the moment we touched the ball, he was gone, headed to the rim. So I really like that. I really like that his game looked unlocked in that role. I don't want him to play power forward, move forward, but I do like the mindset that he's coming out with this season. What caught your eye on the early part of the game before we get into the speed bump that turned into Cam Thomas?
Play was super smooth.
Yep.
You couldn't miss Strus. So first of all, Strus was on fire. There was one play, and I love this. I love when you see guards clearly making plays to set up other guys when they're hot. Donovan made a play where he dove into the paint, clearly to pull Strus. I can't remember who was guarding Strus at the time, but just clearly to pull Strus's guy onto him. Right. Super clever play. Pulled Strus's guy onto him and then dished it right out to Strus, just right behind him. Guys were finding Strus. I mean, just all day, really. Strus made some plays off ball, like backdoor cuts, which I have to admit, I did not watch him all that much in Miami. So he was making all kinds of different plays. He stood out to me as a consistent player early. I mean, he was super, super impressive early in the game. Okoro was making big plays early too. I mean, obviously the refs were getting in his way late in the game, and that's been a trend for him throughout his career, I swear.
Yep.
He looked to me, and I'm not gonna push this too hard, but he did look to me like a poor man's early career. That's 2 qualifiers if you're counting. Kawhi Leonard. He did. He looked like a poor man's early career Claw. He really did. I mean, he was
Could we have
playing
added another 2 qualifiers to that? Poor man's early
early
career,
career.
slightly shorter.
Yeah.
Let
Um,
quadded up.
larger quadded.
Right.
Yeah. Kawhi. No, I mean he really did. I'm really doing that because all I want to do is be wrong on him.
Sure.
I really do want to just hedge my bets on him. I just want to be wrong on him because he was just super impressive. I mean, he was shooting confidently from the corner. He was taking the ball into the paint. He was dishing. I don't know how many assists he had, but I want to say it was like 4.
The funny thing about that, Jig, is so what got him going was the same thing that you just attributed Donovan hooking Strus up. On one of the first 3 or 4 plays of the game, Donovan drove from the top of the key. Cam Johnson cheated off of Okoro in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Donovan found him, and Okoro shot it without even thinking twice. I was like, uh-oh, he's locked in.
That's what he's got to do.
Early in the game. And so from there, you could it's almost like you know how they say like shooters shoot like once you see that first shot go in.
Mm-hmm.
For him, he has a different way that he even runs on the court. Like when he's not confident, he runs like a football player. He looks like he's out there a goon trying to mug people.
Definitely.
When he is confident, he looks like a almost like a ballerina the way he's flying up and down.
Absolutely.
He looks like the most athletic guy, the most physically natural basketball player when he's confident.
I agree.
I raise your Kawhi. I say I agree with that because there's a physicality to him that you're like, man, he's just different. Like if he could put it all together, he would be just different in that with that body.
Yep.
Because I always tend to go towards Iguodala, but even Iguodala didn't have the physical stature, the build.
Iguodala was all upper body. Yeah,
he was all upper body and little. His arms and stuff were much longer, and he played like it. Okoro's arms and his build and stuff is very similar to Jimmy Butler.
Got a big base. Yeah,
right. He's got that base that you're like, you ain't moving that guy once he gets going.
Right.
So,
right.
Oh man, that was encouraging to see. And then
very.
While we're talking, I'm going to play these video things in the background without any music, just so we can have it. While Okoro was getting cooking and getting started, of course, it comes in super loud. Can you hear that?
I did. I heard that bass line.
Oh, you don't want to hear music? I'll play everything music-wise that you got.
I heard that bass line. I thought I might be hearing the Shaft soundtrack there. Or like a Curtis Mayfield.
It was pretty impressive, right? So I'm going to play this full screen while we're doing this and just let it play in the background so we can give it a little commentary while it's going on. So while Okoro is doing that, the Nets, they finally went to their reserves and pulled in some of their guys. And in comes Colin Sexton Jr., Cam Thomas, right?
Mm-hmm.
This little guy from LSU. Oh, come on. Buffer. This little guy from LSU set the world on fire last night to the tune of what did he have? 36 Jig?
Something like that. He had because he had over 30, I think, late in the third quarter.
And once he got cooking, there was no stopping him. Like I'm sitting there, I'm watching this dude. Every time the ball found him, I was like, this thing is going up and he's gonna score.
Mm-hmm.
Look at I love that. Like when Okoro went through Dinwiddie on the drive.
Mm-hmm.
And can I express how happy I am to see Tristan over there on the sideline? Like he's
very, very, very excited.
Dude leads
he likes being a cat
and ass slaps and and all of that. Like
towel waves.
I think towel waves, ass slaps, and claps are his triple double.
Absolutely.
If you look on the sideline, every time he's getting up, look at this. Strus he was on yesterday.
He was.
I say that as this turnover happens, of course. But yeah, so if I want somebody on the board to start keeping track of the Tristan Thompson ass slaps, towel waves, and claps. Because I'm pretty sure this dude, he might even be like pulling up quadruple doubles every single game.
Here's the thing that stood out to me last night above all. Golden State has been the gold standard for depth. It's not always every season. Depth of scoring. If you look at a box score on most games, especially, it's always somebody that comes through.
Right.
If 2 or 3 big guys aren't the top scorers, it's always somebody that comes through with a big game for them. It has always been that way. Last night, it was always somebody that was carrying the team at any given point. And like I would not have guessed that Strus was the guy that was going to come through last night with a big scoring game. You know what I mean? I would not have guessed that Okoro was gonna carry him for a while. I would not have guessed that Donovan was gonna have a tough game for most of the game. I'm not shocked that he carried him at the end of the game. Obviously, that's normal. But to think Darius would have struggled for most of the game, and those two guys would have had big games.
Right.
Not a huge. It just not expected. Those guys were always able to do that, and that was a big part of their success for so long. That to me was extremely, extremely encouraging. But in a way, also, it probably shouldn't be super shocking. But what I want to see is that carry throughout the year, and it must carry into the playoffs. That's got to be a thing that continues all the way through years where everybody can do this.
One of the things that while I was watching them, I agree with you. One of the things while I was watching them was I think that the pace allows for, like it, when you slow it down and you run a half court game, it's kind of scripted and you're really at the mercy of the defense. But when you play it like this, I want to liken it to what Tua and the Dolphins are doing. Because like he's like a 2 or 3 step drop guy. Like 2 steps, that ball is coming out. And it's all about yard after the catch. Everybody knows when we were watching Peyton Manning do it with the Colts, he was big on this. Like he would manipulate defenses with his mind, but that ball came out so fast, and it was like whatever Harrison and Wayne and those guys are doing, it was like it'd be a 2-step drop, quick pass, and then it was like these dudes got like 30, 40 yards. That's what this offense looks like, and it enables guys who you would expect to only be 3D or in supporting roles to actually be the hot hand way more.
They dictated the game last night.
Right. And so like if you got a defense on their heels and what you saw that looks, of course, what you saw that looked so good was, Mobley, Donovan, Darius, whenever they saw one of their teammates had it going, because the offense was attacking, like you were able to mentally be like, you know what, let's get that guy. Let's get the ball to that guy. Because you weren't letting the defense dictate what was happening to you, So like after Strus hit like 2 shots in a row, you saw Garland and Donovan, they had a look in their eyes where they're like, where's this guy at? That's what being on the offensive as an offensive team does. That's what attacking puts you in a position to do. You're playing off an instinct then, and you're not just trying to figure out how best to counter what somebody else is doing good against you, So that speaks to that. And I think when Golden State was doing it and some of these other teams, it's always more a function of people playing instinctual,
Yes,
like
absolutely.
Those coaches put those guys like Steve Kerr, Ron Adams, those guys, they put those guys in a position, and Phil Jackson would do it with his triangle too. It didn't have to be fast. He drilled them on the system until it became instinctual. So I totally agree with you 100%. I don't think there's a reason why during the preseason we saw for some stretches, Dean Wade was like the best player on the floor. And, Niang was the best player on the floor at times during the preseason. Like, I think if this offense stays committed to moving that ball, getting those shots up fast, you're going to have some games like if you're betting on these guys, it's going to be hard to be like, I don't know who's going to be the leading scorer on any given night.
Right.
Because whoever gets it cooking, these dudes will instinctually find them, and it's gonna be like long, long drawn out avalanches over the course of 48 minutes.
That's exactly what was happening. Is the Nets were are tough enough to kind of bring the game back to them,
Right.
so that there weren't really any huge avalanches. I mean, they were getting those like 10-2 runs going. There was none of those like 20-3 runs,
Right.
but they were playing that avalanche type ball. I was impressed with the Nets for the record last night. I like that.
I want to point out something because it frustrated me, and this isn't. We ain't about to change up the tone of this. This is still happy. I'm super
Right.
happy with JBB and the entire coaching staff.
Yeah, I was too.
Because of their commitment to speeding the game up.
Right.
But where there is some in-game rotational adjustment things. And so when I saw this early, we went to the bench and we brought in Levert and Niang and Damon Jones. I think around the same time, all three players came on. And it scared me because I saw what's his name? Jacques Vaughn. Jacques Vaughn went smaller, right? Because he saw Jones, he saw Niang, and he saw that they were like not the quickest, not the most communicative. He was like, I think I'm going to go smaller right about now. And he ended up having like 4 guards on the floor. And the person who benefited the most from that was Cam Thomas. And they kept running this side pick and roll because they were on the left side on my screen. They kept running this side, man. They kept running this side pick and roll where they forced Niang's guy and Ty Jerome. They were.
Was that around that time that they made that big run and took the lead early in the game?
Dude, they did it like 3 or 4 times.
Close to the half.
They did it like 3 or 4 times so that they started cooking. And then they moved it to the other side and they put Jones and Ty Jerome in the pick and roll. But the fact that they got it going against Niang, so when they got the switch, that whoever the guard was, and it was usually Cam Thomas, he was like, green light, go. Attack that, attack Niang because he can't move his feet. And dude was getting wide open and easy layups.
Right.
Then it went to the other side, and they also did it with Damian Jones once he started cooking. And somehow or the other, all of this got dumped on Ty Jerome's plate, like he wasn't rotationally and strategically doing what he was supposed to do. I'm watching the way that they're communicating. He's telling guys like, but I think it was like a core scheme to switch. But at some point in time, when you saw that happen that many times, if you're not going to sub out Georges Niang or Damon Jones,
right,
then you gotta switch up what you're running because they started abusing that, you know? Man, by the time the starters came back in, by the time Donovan and Darius I think Darius was out there during that time. But once Darius and Donovan came back out there, once Mobley replaced Jones on the back line, the Nets were already cooking. It was too late, you know? By this point in time, this kid's already got like 15 points in the second quarter. And everybody else on the team was starting to feel more confident, you know? I think Claxton, he was able to get Claxton a couple of easy layups or dunks. So he started feeling himself with his little skinny, started feeling like he was a dominant big man or something.
Yep.
And then they brought Daron Sharp on the floor. And that was concerning because when he's still gaining his confidence in the league, right? Like at North Carolina, while he's playing here with my Tar Heels, he couldn't find his footing really. Like he was just big, pudgy, out of shape. He slimmed it down and he's just like, I'm going to play physical and I'm going to just get to the rim. And Cam Thomas and Daron Sharp were the difference as a bench crew. And we didn't make adjustments that we should have made when Jacques Vaughn made his adjustments. And that was the reason why the game stayed competitive throughout, I think.
That makes sense. I think that's a very fair analysis, actually. I'm with that. So what is the solution?
Well, it's going to be like game to game. The solution is that the in-game adjustments have to get quicker. I know that we want to dictate how we play and everything. The way that we stay in the driver's seat is if the other coach makes an adjustment to start attacking us, just maybe temporarily call off that switch everything on the perimeter, you know? Like go strictly man, fight through, or do there was a couple of 2-on-2s I saw, which I was like, wow, that's a new wrinkle. In the second half, there were a couple 2-1-2s. I think they were doing that to offset the pick and roll where they were attacking men. That's got to happen a little bit quicker though. Like it happened in the second half, but it's got to happen when that tide first started turning. For this next game against the Thunder, it'll be an entirely different challenge because they've got
Right.
this, their big man Chet, he can space it, and his game is not predicated on just running to the rim like Claxton and Daron Sharp were. So it's going to be a whole new set of challenges for this next game. But it's a fun puzzle to have to put together, right? So now that
Definitely.
we saw it there, once we go against another team that has that type of build for their offense, and you see them trying to get their footing, don't let 4 or 5 possessions go before we make that adjustment. I guess that's the way that you change that up.
Our unicorn was lost in the shuffle last night.
I would agree.
It didn't create any huge problems because the Cavs were launching threes last night, and it didn't appear to me that that is going to be Mobley's role this year. And I had said before the season that I don't necessarily expect or want it to.
Right.
He did have one beautiful drive from the top of the key where he took about 3 steps and easily laid it in. I'm not sure who was guarding him at the time, but it was.
I know exactly what you're talking
I loved that too. I mean, I love that too. He just confidently. I mean, it was two. Was it maybe 2 steps? I don't even know if he had the Euro step. I think it was just 2 steps in a regular layup. It was amazing. That's the kind of stuff I want to see from him.
Sure.
I don't know that I need to see 3-pointers from him, but he definitely got lost in the shuffle.
Why do you
I
think
think
that,
I need to.
Why do you think that was, Jig? Why do you think he got?
I am not 100% sure. It really seemed to me to have to do with the fact that the Cavs were so focused on perimeter offense and because of the speed of the game.
Sure.
I don't know how they game planned it, if that's just the route that they decided, or if that was more of an in-game decision. But I don't think that Mobley is a fast-paced, perimeter-oriented player. I think he's going to be more of a half-court kind of grinder guy. And I don't think he's going to do all, I hate to say this, but I don't think that he is going to do all that well over a long game where the defender's extremely physical with him.
So I agree with both parts there, but I want to challenge the fast-paced offense.
Okay.
So
good.
First, I want to preface what I'm about to say by saying I think when you have a role carved out for somebody, you've got to maintain. You've got to do everything in your power. I don't care what happens rotationally. You got to do everything in your power to not compromise the integrity of that role, right?
Yeah, I agree with that.
And so we had Damon Jones and we had Tristan Thompson over there. We even had Niang, who could and probably only can defensively survive on the court as like a 5.
Right.
We had a lot of guys who, if we came out and we started off and we said, Mobley, we know what your role is on defense, but here's your role on offense, and we're going to make sure we maintain it, even if Jared Allen has a sprained finger or whatever. But what we did instead was we totally compromised what his role should be. And so the things that I've been thinking about with myself for Mobley over the first 2 years of his career is, he's raised by this very traditional back to the basket big man in Papa Mobley, right?
Yep.
You see it in both of their game. They both have a traditional back to the basket.
They do.
We've got the fundamentals. We don't have to go to Olajuwon camp to figure that out, kind of thing.
No, correct.
Problem with that is, and I'm a person like MD13 could speak to this because he watched him in high school and stuff. As they were coming up, Isaiah filled that role for those teams, and Evan played more of a perimeter kind of facilitator. So the role that we really want him to play is actually naturally the way he knows how to attack defenses. He was used to be in the high post Isaiah was used to be in the low post. That's why it looks so amazing when he came pro and Isaiah spent his last year at USC facing up and shooting and stuff. People are like, wait a minute, we didn't know this guy could do this.
Right.
So I actually think that if we let him play that role that you're talking about, as in the high post, facing up, creating, looking for, being DHOs and everything like that, he actually would excel at it. Where he gets himself in trouble is when he, in a half court game, he's like, I'm gonna put my back on this guy and take him into my office, because his game isn't predicated for that. Like, he's actually much stronger when he's facing up and he's attacking and creating for others than he is if he's back to the basket trying to back guys down. So that actually lends itself to a faster paced game.
Yep.
If he's not, I think that what happens is, if you're the last line of defense, if you're that number 5, and really quickly, Jig, this is how basketball players think this game out. There's only 3 positions. There's your big, it's your traditional back to the basket, last line of defense, post on offense, rebound and block shots guy. There's your wing, the guy who, like, is just all kinds of everywhere, like Kevin Durant. You can do everything on both ends. If you're good enough and versatile enough, you can be a little bit of guard, a little bit of big, but as a wing, you got it all, depending on what God gave you. And then there's your guards. And those guards are like, we can run this show. We can also quarterback the defense. Like, we're not going to, we're going to make sure everybody's where they need to be at. We're going to feed them. We're going to keep them happy on that end, so they try harder on the defensive end. Okay? So there's guards, there's wings, and there's bigs. By all intents and purposes, Mobley is truly a wing. And it just sucks that he's 7'2" or whatever, 7'1", 7'2", because it's like we automatically assume he has to be a big, but he really thinks and sees and plays the game like a wing. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, if we can get him back to his original role, and he still remains comfortable with it, then I think that brings out a whole nother wrinkle in the dude's game.
But it's very important that from jump, and no matter what happens with injuries and stuff, that he's not asked to be the big, because it's like a mindset shift, like we often talk about, both of us are creative professionals. And there's some days in the office where I literally say, everything that I have to do
good analogy.
Everything I have to do with admin and administratively, like making sure people get paid and make sure we're chasing down accounts payable, I'm gonna do that after lunch. Everything creative I'm gonna do before
morning.
Morning.
Absolutely.
And it's sometimes hard. You can't sit down and be like, at 10 o'clock I'm gonna do administrative, at 10:15 I'm gonna do creative, at 10:30, like it's like Apple or it's like iPhone or Android. Like, when you switch over, you can make the switch, but there's some things that you're going to leave out or not necessarily, be able to do, where you can maximize that. For me, Mobley is a wing, and we need to keep him in a wing position. I know his offensive game is still coming, and you were just saying you don't need to shoot threes. There's almost like a part of me that's like, let him do everything a wing is doing. Like, let him put the ball on the ground, let him do this, let him do that. Because what's going to happen is, as he gets more comfortable playing wing, some of that stuff will become more instinctual for him,
Okay.
So I'm willing to ride with some of the bad shots and that kind of stuff if ultimately he feels empowered and emboldened as a wing, kind of thing.
You think he wants to? Do you think he wants to do that?
I have no idea. The way that he instinctually
now we're trying to mind read here.
The way he instinctually tries to play like his pops and stuff, I imagine it's probably been drilled in his head to play back to the basket and all that kind of stuff. So the secret might be in unlocking that for him,
Whenever we see him in summer league, I mean, when these guys play summer league ball, that's how a guy wants to play. I mean, because when you know what I mean? Like, when you're on the playground, that's what comes out is that's how a guy wants to play.
That's how you instinctually want to approach.
That's how you instinctually play. Whenever I see the summer league stuff, it's always out on the perimeter.
Yeah,
he's super smooth playing that way.
Super smooth.
Whenever we see the baby deer stuff, I hate to say it, but it is when he's in the paint. It really is.
It is. Because, I mean, he just
baby deer stuff. That means you're not playing instinctually. It's the same thing with Okoro. When he looks like a baby deer, It's that
Half court.
3-point shot.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is. It's that exactly. It's that half court, like he's missed a
out
shot
of
or
his
two.
element. You know it
Exactly.
like as soon as you see it. So I agree with that 100%. That's
So
what
maybe
makes
you have a maybe not. I think you might have convinced me.
okay.
I am willing to change my mind if I am. Listen, I'm bad at a lot of stuff in life. Is there anything I'm good at? It's changing my
Right.
mind, right?
Changing your mind.
I think, yeah, yeah.
You're
I
the
think
Michael
you.
Jordan of changing your mind, is what you're
I'm a
saying.
Michael Jordan of changing my mind. Yeah, remember John Kerry, the flip flopping thing? I think that's a positive thing when people quote unquote flip flop,
Maybe it
right?
wasn't a boat that we were in. Maybe we were on a
Is
raft.
that what his thing was? I don't even remember. I'm not very good at following
Yeah, they went
politics.
back and they were looking through some of his stories and they were like, Carrie, what are you doing here? So
So maybe he was just a liar. I actually can't. I just remember it as a thing. I remember hearing that he was flip flopping or whatever, and I was like, you know what, man?
he
People
was
flip
he
flop.
was like, oh my God, this is because remember Kennedy rode the whole PT 109 thing into the White House.
Oh, is
And
that right?
so
Yeah.
Kerry's like, wait, he's a war vet. His boat was capsized and all this kind of stuff. He was
Okay.
taken into custody.
So he was like copying it.
Yeah, I can do that too. But
Oh,
anyway,
okay. So well then, all right. So I don't want. I don't want to. I don't. You know what? I don't want to defend this guy if I don't know anything about him. Here's all I'm going to say. I think
sure.
changing one's mind is a positive. See,
Okay.
so you have presented. Here's where I'm going to go with this. You've presented an argument that has been so positive that I am going to go ahead and say
Appreciate that.
this.
Thank you.
I'm gonna meet you in the middle on this, and I'm gonna say, based on the facts I have reviewed, as I think about it, I do think he looks smoothest, as I said, when I watch him in summer league, and I agree with the point that you've made that you do have to let guys
Yeah.
fail a little bit out there,
A bit.
even at the NBA level. And I remember you said too on the one, even if it's to the point of losing some regular season games, um, you got to experiment in the
Yeah.
regular season. It's very, very important to experiment with lineups. Let guys take some shots. Here's one point I want to make too. I was very encouraged by Donovan taking a back seat
Me
for a
too.
very good portion of that game. That was big time positive for me.
I agree.
Because he did. We didn't notice him for the bulk of that game. I don't know how others feel about that. I feel really good about that because we know he's there in our back pocket for the grand finale. And if he does that for most of the season, that means that, to your point, Mobley's going to have a chance to shine,
Right.
regardless of what role he's playing, and all these other role players are going to get their shots. LeBron used to do that, right? He used to do
Right.
that thing where he'd back off.
And turn it
But
on.
our lineups were exactly. But our lineups were such shit that it really didn't matter, and he'd have to take over much earlier.
Right.
The lineup's good enough now, right? You know what I'm saying? Like the lineup's so good now
Yep.
that in that game, he had the luxury of backing off until that, right?
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Kevin Love fan on the board. I believe Kevin
She's
Love.
the one woman on the
She's a
internet.
woman. Yeah, he's a she. And on our engagement this morning on the board, she said, I really love watching the way SGA will approach the game that way. And she made mention of the fact that that's how Jimmy Butler does it for Miami too. What we're seeing, because we sometimes we'll mix it up and we'll be like, oh, it's just him and Darius taking turns. But I went back and I watched that Orlando preseason first half again because I was like, what was it that all of a sudden you started, Darius put up like 20 points in the first half and sat the whole second half. If you watch, Donovan uses his gravity to get him open shots. Okay. So like he was doing that
Exactly.
yesterday a lot. We mentioned that he set up Strus. We mentioned that he set up Okoro. He wasn't struggling. There were a couple of times he did like some Euro steps and some over the head oopsie ooh kind of thing where he was just wide open at the bucket. He could do that all day for 48 minutes. But then he'd be that 70-point guy that we don't want to see. Yesterday he showed that his mindset going into this season is going to be to observe more and let the game come to him and then take it when he needs to take the bull by the horns. So
Yep.
I was like similar to you, I was super happy with him when the game was close. When it was the last 5 minutes, I was like, okay, Donovan, now's where Jimmy Butler, now's where LeBron, now's where Joe Johnson back in the day with the Hawks. This is where it's time to take over. And I was worried until I saw that steal, and I was like, no, he's got it. He can flip the switch. So yesterday was super encouraging because I saw him engaged on the same time. At the same time, Garland was on the floor with him, and I knew that he was picking and choosing how and when to attack. And that's something that, like for the most part in his career, he hasn't been getting credit for. It's something that we never saw from Colin Sexton that we were like, can you please, can you please learn how to do it? So, moving forward, if, for this game tomorrow or whenever it is against Oklahoma, if Donovan approaches the game the same way as SGA, and it's the battle of those two, playing chess, not checkers, and deciding when to take over, I'd put my money on Donovan Mitchell. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I like the way he's approaching it. It lends itself to him staying healthy longer throughout the year. Like, not having, even though he came down on De'Aaron Sharp's foot, and I was like, uh-oh, like we about to have some trouble. And he bounced right back up. I was looking at those little tiny Donovan shoes, and I was like, get those damn things out of here and get him some actual ankle support. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know Adidas is his, isn't he Adidas, if I'm not mistaken? I think so.
My son pointed out last night, actually, that I don't know if it was him, but he's like, I think he's Adidas. And I was like, man, my son's looking for brands for people too. Awesome. I think you're right. I think you're right.
Shout out to Luke, man. He's got the game down.
Dude, he's in, man. So a couple of things.
I need to make those shoes higher to close that ran out, but go ahead.
Man, that's a thing though, man, is guys love the low tops right now. When we were kids, it was all high top. I know. When we were kids, it was all high tops. Like my whole basketball career, a lot of them do. Giannis, like our whole time we were playing as kids, it was all high tops. Everybody. And then over time, these guys have just gone all like highly padded low. And that's all my sons got too. They're all low tops.
I got 2 pairs of Under Armour Steph Curry's. I don't tell this to everyone.
Oh, he's high.
All Curry's of these are high because his ankles are made out of paper.
Yeah, he's high.
Like his shoes are like built to be ankle supports.
Yep. His are high. No, that's okay. I was thinking about that because when I was looking for shoes, I was thinking high tops initially, and then I figured I'd try. I got Giannis's. His are low. But like I've done all right so far. I mean, but I'm not like
sandals really they got nowadays. Like what
I know.
Like I'm better off just playing in some house shoes.
I know, man. Like if you got ankle issues or anything, I mean, even if you same thing that you could hurt your ankle with, you could hurt your knee with. I don't know, man. It just seems like it's like somebody took running shoes and we're like, oh, we'll just pad up the ankles a little bit.
Just playing these. And I'm like, wait, there's a reason why we they didn't make these for nothing. They didn't
we wore the high tops because they covered your ankles. I'm with you. So here's my thing about Donovan. There's a couple of things that I was thinking about last night. First of all, that dude must have wrestled in high school because that dude knows how to use his body in ways that other guys do not. The way he leveraged his physicality on that steal was like, that was incredible. I was not expecting to see that. The way he like wedged himself in there,
they did a video slowdown of it. And he literally he reached his arm in there, he snatched it out, and he just like did a 360 as he went down. I was like, holy crap, that was like ballerina-esque.
He was either like wrestling or but then the play on the steal, he had been playing defense on those dudes. That was like not the same kind of defense other guys play. Like he uses his body in a way that's like, did you ever watch that boxer Lomachenko? You ever see him the way he moves around in ways that are like Matrix, where you're just like,
what was the dude on the video game, King of Fighters or whatever? Eddie. What was Eddie on?
I'm not sure.
He was like, he would do like a dance and stuff instead of just like straight up fighting. Eddie,
right?
I want to say he might have been King of Fighters here. He was Virtual Fighter or something like that.
Okay.
Remember Sega
Saturn? He moves in ways that are like, how did he get to that spot from the center of that person? in that and he's like smooth, but he's also like super. I wouldn't want to fight that dude for a loose ball, basically.
Name who's the Donovan doppelganger on Street Fighter? Who's the fighter on Street Fighter that you would equate to him?
Vega kind of moves a
Vega.
little bit like him.
I swear on my life, I had the exact same guy. He's built
Vega.
he's built like Balrog, but he
Yeah,
moves
but
like
he
Vega.
where
You
he's
know what
like
I'm saying?
climbing up the fence or whatever.
Dude. And it's like every time you turn around, those people kept jumping on the fence and they were climbing around and stuff. And you're like, man, just come down here so I can Haruken your ass real quick. But he always found a way to hang on the fence.
Slippery and strong.
Yeah.
But that foul call that they made on him in that last play was such a bullshit call.
I agree.
Well, he was playing defense, but that's all it was. He's just like a really strong like snake. That's what I always think when I'm watching BJ guys. It's crazy strong. But either way, so that was the first thing I noticed him about. The second thing was, and this has been throughout his career with the Cavs, he really does make big plays that aren't just scoring plays. And that was why I was so disappointed with him in the playoffs. Like he really does, he just makes smart clutch plays. And they just weren't close enough at the end of games where he had the opportunity to do that. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that he wasn't playing real well.
Right.
Obviously kind of getting ahead of myself here and that we're not that far along yet. But that was him at the end of the game, man. He just made a series of really, really big plays.
You remember when LeBron, so you just mentioned it, but there were games where he did have the luxury, especially during the time, Mo Williams,
66 win season. Yeah, exactly.
Like I just, whenever I think about when LeBron was actually capable to do that, I always think of the three,
Goosey.
the Goose crew. And it was, Mo Williams, Delonte West, JJ was on the bench. He'd be the first guy popping up doing what Tristan's doing now and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What was that dude's name from Kansas, the big guy?
Sasha Khan.
But then we also had this other dude that was built like a fridge. It was like Dante something. Anyway. With those, yeah, I can see him. Like I can see his face.
Him too, and I can't remember.
Remember his name. But anyway, with those teams, he always, if somebody else was going, because LeBron was focused on getting them going, then he would take over in winning time. And there was a rare occasion where he was like cooking so much, like that game against Milwaukee, and he scored.
When he was shooting from all over the place.
It was crazy. Like he hit some half.
He came down and he was like, none of them were swishing either. They were all just like.
Those were rare
in there.
But the what he usually did was what he did against Detroit. And I mean, if you remember that whole game, what did he score the last 25 points or so? But he was
something like that. Yeah, that was crazy.
Let me get Z going.
That was one of my favorite games.
Yeah, one of my favorite games too. He just took over when he had to. That's what Donovan showed us yesterday.
I lost you.
Oh. Yeah, it's showing me that my network was messed up. I hope it doesn't mess up our recording. Come back, you cheap internet. There you go.
I think you're coming back. There you go. You're back.
Cheap ass internet. I'm actually using AT&T fiber. So mark your days.
Fiber? I thought fiber you're never supposed to lose.
That's what I thought too. I don't know. I did get a notification over here that it was my network, so I can't blame it on you.
Darnell Jackson.
Oh, Darnell Jackson. That was awesome.
I didn't even have to look it up. I was about to.
Yeah, Darnell Jackson. Thank you. Yeah, because that was going to stick in my head if we didn't figure it out at some point in time.
DJ. I don't know if that guy played a minute for the Cavs.
I just feel like every time he got out there, it was like prison ball time. So it was usually like, trash time and
5 fouls in like 2 minutes.
Playing for cigarettes.
Like hammering a dunk off the front of the rim. And it's like, dude, this guy.
So that's what
I don't even know if G League existed back then.
I don't think so. I think he literally would like leave the Cavs practice facility and go, down on Kinsman and hoop for some food stamps or something at the end. Like he was hood. So Darnell Jackson definitely looked like he should have been from Cleveland. Like he was like,
oh yeah.
So
East.
Right.
East.
So I think we've sufficiently covered last night's game. Who do you give your game ball to for last night? You give it to Donovan
Strus.
Strus. Okay, Strus.
Well, that's just being cute. I mean, really, it's got to go to Donovan because he won the game.
Yeah, I think
But I
so.
mean, like, well, but isn't that what they did? Didn't they give the chain to? I think he gave out double chains.
I think so. Strus and Donovan. I think.
Yeah, which is understandable.
With an honorable mention going to Okoro, I think. So,
Yeah. You wanna reward Okoro. I mean, the guy
that
was probably the game of his career, and oddly enough, he hit a game winner against Brooklyn last year.
He sure did. I think he likes playing in Brooklyn. And
who doesn't?
I mean, I love Brooklyn. Weirdly, their arena stuff is kind of weak. You know, like
is it?
They've got you have so much potential. You're in that borough that everybody's like, they got the Brooklyn chant is all they got. But I feel like they could.
What is that chant? What are they doing? Are they doing the Warriors chant? Yeah, that's what it sounds
like. At the very beginning of the game, they're doing that. I had a feed up because I was watching it online, and I actually got their arena feed. They got some talent working the sidelines. They got
oh yeah, of course.
Brooklyn's got some talent. Oh, I do want to interject. If you guys are watching any of the NBA coverage and stuff, my current celebrity crush for NBA coverage is
Who you got?
Actually Monica McNutt. Like,
never heard of her.
Okay, check her out. Like, I don't know if she went and got a BBL or I don't know what happened, but for some reason, like, there's a thickness that's going on there that I'm like, I forgot Angel Gray for a little bit. So this season I'm gonna be watching more national coverage because they got some they brought some hams, they brought some yams and all that kind of stuff for the live game.
It's a good looking woman.
Yeah. But she's been she turned it up. She's her whole wardrobe and stuff. I don't know if she's a former WN player or what, but I'm like, man, what's happening here?
She's a sideline reporter for the Nets.
Yeah. I don't know if it's for the Nets, but I definitely saw her yesterday and I was like, hey, wait a minute. I had to pause the TV. It was that sister was thick.
She is.
Maybe forget Angel Gray for a second. So let's do this. How was Serena? I haven't seen Serena so far to start the season off. This wasn't like a national broadcast yesterday. Did you watch like the Cavs feed for the game yesterday?
No, I didn't. No, whatever feed I was watching was that one where it sends you to that like view of the arena where you're where it's like that straight on view. What view? I was at that NBA League Pass view. I'm looking at it right now. I had that NBA League Pass view where you just look at the center of the arena live view.
Okay.
I don't know what that is. I don't know what you call that, but no, I didn't have any sideline reporters.
Okay. I just want to check in.
What that's called.
She's like my little sister librarian. I've never been like, ooh, Serena. Yeah. So the season is starting off pretty strong. We had like 1 million games yesterday just around the league. I know we got like 5 or 6 minutes.
I didn't check them. I didn't check any scores yesterday. What did Wemby do yesterday?
He actually looked very confused and overwhelmed. I think
understandable.
He had 5 fouls with 6 points and something when they took him out.
Ooh, bad game.
Yeah, he didn't have a good game at all. Across the league, some of the things that I saw that I was like, wait, I can't believe Atlanta lost to Charlotte. So the Hawks, who are supposed to be coming out and now they've got it all figured out. They started Sadiq Bey at power forward yesterday. So they had Hunter and Bey as their forwards. They had Capella at center, and then Trae Young and DeJounte Murray. Trae Young and DeJounte Murray do not work together. I don't know what they're going to do, but they don't know how to share the backcourt with each other.
Yeah, they're both ball. Yeah, they're both ball.
They do.
If you had to pick one of those two guys to have on your team, which one would you choose?
Of those two?
To win, not to watch. To win games.
DeJounte Murray, but his scoring, he's so limited in how he attacks on offense. Like he's now that you see what SGA is doing, you're like, okay, DeJounte Murray
big game yesterday for SGA.
Yeah, he had a really big game. I picked DeJounte Murray still. I just Trae Young, no. And it kind of showed yesterday.
Trae's game, man. I don't like to watch his game. I wouldn't want to build a team with Trae.
If I had
probably my least favorite player.
The real question is, if you had to pick two guys, would it be LaMelo Ball or Trae Young? And I think I'll go LaMelo Ball right now. To be honest, yeah, because like
why LaMelo?
So he came back from that ankle injury yesterday. That was his first game back for start the season off. and he looks like he's trying to mature. He's trying to turn the page. He wasn't just like, I need to. Last year he was shooting a lot of threes and stuff. Yesterday he was doing a lot of everything. He looked closer to like SGA and Okoro, and that he just took over whenever he needed to. And I was like, wait a minute. I thought Charlotte was going to be absolutely terrible this year because they're really immature. Right now they're dealing with another Bridges suspension, and they just released a guy before the season started in Kai Jones. LaMelo Ball looks like he's like,
Oh.
get on my back with this new contract.
Mhm.
And I if you gave me a choice right now, I'd take LaMelo Ball over Trae Young.
Melo Ball?
Yeah. And I don't, but anyway, across the league, Sacramento stole a win against Utah yesterday. It wasn't even super competitive. Utah's got a weird log jam with their guards because you got Colin Sexton, of course, who's like, I'm healthy and I want to do this. But you've got Keontae George, the rookie, who looks way better than him and should be playing way more. Then you got Jordan Clarkson, who's like, this is my spot as a 6 man, so Colin can't have it. So they got like 4 or 5 guards that are all, overlapping and vying for the same type of roles. So Utah's going to be a little confusing for me this year. And something else stood out yesterday. Oh, Boston. So Boston had to barely steal a win from New York. Started off the game really strong. They were balling. And then New York found their way back into it, just by Tibbs muddying up the game. They looked really scary when the game started because Porzingis looked like he perfectly complemented Tatum and Brown. So that ended up being a little bit of a tighter game than I thought. I think they truly, to start off the season, are going to miss the Marcus Smart and Grant Williams toughness depth. So it's going to be interesting to see how they, over the course of the season, how they fill that gap.
What is it about the Clippers where every year they field this incredible lineup, and every year when everybody thinks about them, they're either overlooked or you just think, yeah, that'll be a cakewalk in the playoffs. It's every year.
It's very confusing. I'm not sure.
Something about them.
And we all can say that Ty Lue is a great game coach, right?
Sure, absolutely.
It just feels like there is a organizational focus on not trying until playoff time.
Right.
I don't know.
You think that's stuck with him, or that's something about the players, or what is it? I mean, can I give you a theory?
Sure.
I think each one of these players, plus I think that his relationship with LeBron has stuck with him a little bit since he was there. I think there's this overwhelming stink that's kind of hung around with him that is good of basketball as he's coached since that time. I don't think people have forgotten that LeBron kind of did him dirty a little bit while he was there. I think that's hung around a little bit.
For Ty
I
Lue?
also think, yeah, I do. I think about it sometimes.
Okay.
And I also think with Kawhi, I think Kawhi has had that weird relationship with the Spurs.
Right.
I don't think anybody's forgotten that. Right. Now they've got Westbrook, and he's a weird guy. He's had a weird series of situations too. Right.
Right.
Paul George as well he's not really won anything. I just feel like you've got a whole gaggle of dudes who it's just a bunch of like superstar or superstar adjacent misfits.
Yeah.
In LA light, basically.
Right. I have to be honest, Jig, because I was trying to watch them. I've got 3 screens right here. And there were so many games going that when I switched off the Clippers, I could not talk myself into switching back.
I know. That's how I feel about them.
Just something about them that just doesn't feel like they're even trying.
I think that's what it is. I'm telling you.
Yeah. I think what happened, and this is, I think they broke the team that first year when it was Kawhi and PG on one side of the locker room. And on the other side of the locker room, it was Pat Bev, Montrezl Harrell, and a whole bunch of hard-working dudes who just went to the playoffs, who were like, what are y'all doing? We don't have to do it this way, right? And so I genuinely think that they fractured as a result of that. And I just don't think you can bring the crew back together. You remember what it looked like when Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton, not Ayton, DJ Jordan, DeAndre Jordan, and Blake Griffin when they fractured, and it was like beef between CP and Blake, and then DeAndre Jordan was in the middle, and they just never could bring it back together. That's what this Clippers team looks like. But the two dudes who won out, Kawhi and Paul George, it feels like they've infected everybody. It's like a cancer.
That's what I'm saying. I just feel like that team has this stench.
We just don't try. Like, and we're gonna take off half the week. We're gonna take.
You know how Pat Bev made that comment about how there's a lot of guys. I can't remember what percentage he said, but he said there's a certain percentage of guys that play basketball that don't even like playing basketball.
Yes. That's what that whole group feels like. I agree with you 100%. Everybody except for Russ. Russ is the anomaly that stands.
Russ likes basketball.
And they're paying him I think they might be paying Russ like 10 cents this year to play. Like he's like on a minimum contract or something.
I think that dude would play basketball for almost nothing. I think that dude likes playing basketball. Remember he made that comment and everybody made fun of him, and I don't blame him. LeBron is maniacal. That dude plays basketball to win, and I think he also loves playing basketball.
Right.
There was that. I can't help but laugh at this. There was that clip where LeBron is like motivating the team, and he's like, "We got to get out there. We got to go win." And like Westbrook chimes in the background, but like, "Yeah, but we also got to have fun." And LeBron gives him that like stink out, and he's just like, "Man, why you got to add that in?" And you're just watching the clip, and I'm just sitting here, and I'm like, "Dude, you should have kept that to yourself. You should have just let the speech end."
Like there's a time and a place. About it, you just had to add your little 2 cents that totally undermined what he was saying already.
Because you want to play to win, right? I mean, like
Russ is that guy at the so Thanksgiving coming up. Russ is that guy that comes to Thanksgiving dinner, and he's going to say something. You know, everybody around the table saying what they're grateful for, whatever that might be, however your family does it. You know, before he does it, that you're like, I need to cover my mouth. Because I think everybody's gonna see me. He's going to say something that's wholly inappropriate. And it's not that he's saying it wrong.
No, that's exactly it. He wasn't wrong. You want to play ball. Like, you want to have fun. Like, we're not here to not have fun, but it's like the dude just finished his speech about going out there to
read the room.
Like, and everybody, let's have fun. It's like, bro, like, it's like a playoff game.
Oh,
go out there to win.
Now was really not the time to do that.
But here's the thing, like
it showed itself up on the court too. Like that's what KD ran away from, because KD was like, "What the hell is going on here? Like, what is happening in these cornfields? Where every time we get in the playoffs, I feel like I'm trying to win by myself." Like,
definitely, because you want to go out there, you want to win, man. Like that's what it's about. But and if you're having fun, like obviously that's why you stick in the league until you're 40. I mean, presumably, I'm not an NBA player playing until I'm 22 or 40, but I mean, theoretically. Right.
You can tell.
So anyways,
you can tell the guys who were on campus and actually didn't take any of their courses, who actually just had like the girls do their papers and stuff for them. Russ was chilling on UCLA's campus.
Absolutely. With all that said, to the original point, the dude loves playing basketball. He has fun playing basketball. That's part of his game. Whether the guy's ever going to win or not, I don't know. I enjoyed watching him at the beginning of his career because he was so explosive. I think it's disappointing what has happened to him over time. He's a perfect fit with the Clippers.
I do want to say this last thing, and then we're gonna get your record recommendation. We're getting the hell out of here. It feels weird seeing Chris Paul play for the Warriors. Like it makes me feel like my skin crawl. It like, because there's
how's that gonna work?
As much as we hated the Warriors, it was so fun watching after Kevin Durant left. It was fun watching them reclaim and like reorganize themselves around what their core principles were. Chris Paul undermines all of that. Like he is. I was watching him in that game they played against Phoenix, and it just looks like he doesn't fit. Like you're just kind of like, move and like give the ball to Steph, Clay, even give the damn ball to Wiggins and just get out the
Mhm.
way because he
Mhm.
like he just has a way of playing that you're like, get out the way, Chris Paul.
Mhm.
Like go, like totally appreciate you on any other team other than the one that's fully predicated on ball movement and bodies moving and not stopping the ball. So
Mhm.
I don't know what they're going to do with that because it didn't work with D'Angelo Russell. It didn't work, with anybody who needs the ball and wants to pound the ball. It doesn't work. So
I agree.
that's so weird.
I would agree with that. I'm not super pleased about. Are you a big Chris Paul guy? You like Chris Paul? I feel like you've talked about him before.
I, I like that he's like a bridge to the old school point guard.
Mm-hmm.
But when you watch him play and stuff, he's kind of a bitch. Like he does a lot of dirty stuff.
Cheap shot. Yeah, he's a cheap shot guy.
I like that Rondo pieced him up. And it doesn't surprise me when a lot of guys get angry with him because he does a lot of stuff
He does.
yeah. But go ahead.
No, that was it. I was just
Yeah, I
curious.
mean, I don't hate him. I had an opportunity to work on a summer league initiative with his brother. His brother's pretty well known. Um, and so we contracted with another organization that was doing something in Winston-Salem for a summer thing. And his brother's really cool. I see why, I think if his brother was the NBA player, he'd be like on everybody's list. But Chris is like a little less desirable as a, just watching the way he plays and stuff. You just kind of like, like Pat Bev, as much as everybody was like, man, that was a cheap shot what he did. And, him
Mhm.
having war with Chris Paul all the time. I bet you there's some circles with players and stuff that are
Builds
really
up.
happy.
Builds
Yeah.
up over time.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. What you got record recommendation wise? What are you listening to right now?
I'm gonna have to give somebody else credit for this one.
All right.
And then I'm gonna have to give somebody else I have to hit somebody else about this one too. Um, Human Q-Tip, as he has a couple times in the past,
Shout out to
um, made a great recommendation of an album and a song that I would have never run into on my own. Um, yes, Close to the Edge. Is an album that has one of the best drummers of all time. I do like drummers.
Okay.
It has Bill Bruford on it. And vocalist who's actually just recently left the band, Johnny Anderson. And it was from 1972,
Okay.
when they were peaking. Um, the main song on there is called "Close to the Edge."
Close to the
One of
edge.
the one of the
Yes.
wildest roller coasters of a song that I've ever heard in my life. Q called it the best song that he's ever heard. It's in the underrated songs list. He said anybody who doesn't call it the best song that he's ever heard is obviously underrating it. So I said I'd go out and listen to it.
All right.
It's 18 minutes long, right?
Nice.
I'm going to give Q a hard time here for a second because a long time ago I mentioned ELO,
Right.
Electric Light
Right.
Orchestra, is a band that I like, which is purely known for like their fun pop hits from the 70s. And I'd give him a hard time because he did listen to like experimental music.
Right.
I've kind of gotten into experimental music over time, experimental rock, like these guys, and then King Crimson, because it's fun. There's a lot to listen to. You pick up as you listen to music, as you listen to it over and over. The song has so much going on in it. It starts out with like some water drops, and then it develops into a series of parts and movements. Um, I would strongly recommend that anybody listen to it.
All right.
The album's listed as one of the 500 greatest albums of all time, which I didn't know until I listened to it and did a little bit of research. But the centerpiece is obviously that song. There's a section of it, I can't remember exactly which part of it is. It's probably 3-4 minutes long,
Okay.
where he repeats, "I get up, I Get Down, which if you think about it, could have multiple meanings to it. You can interpret however you want to, but I love that section right there. It kind
Is
of
it
sounds
possible
like it.
that Kanye sampled it for
Very possible.
Never Let Me Down? On his first
Very
album, College
possible.
Dropout?
I don't know. I don't know. Never Let Me Down, but it's very possible because it's got an organ, a lot of organs to it, and it culminates in a wild church organ. I don't know what the word for it is. Probably crescendo. Yeah, crescendo. One of the wildest songs I've ever heard. I love it. I really do love it, and I think
You
I'd
think I'm
recommend it to
joking?
anybody.
I'm literally about to listen. I'm getting ready to catch a flight.
Listen to it and see. See,
Okay.
look up. What's it called? It's something
Close to the Edge by
they
Yes.
yeah, I can't remember what it was. I'd recommend the song to anybody. I would guess that if I recommended it to 10 people, probably 2 or 3 would like it. But the people who like it love it. It's an amazing album with an amazing song.
Can I admit something to both you and Q-Tip?
Please do.
So I ran a record store. I've listened to all types of music and stuff. Every time I got ready to listen to Yes, I ended up listening to Boston and America instead. I don't know why.
I get that. Because they're still great because they're both great bands from the same time period.
Yeah.
Boston's a little more rocking. Yeah, you got one more rocking band. You got one band that's a little bit softer, not quite yacht rock, but that's a little bit folky, easier to listen to. And they're going to be in the same section. They're going to be close together.
Yeah. Like I would
album art similar.
I'd be like, I'm about to do this. I'm about to experience Yes. This might be the thing I needed in order to do this. Because as soon as I would sit down and I'd be like, all right, well,
18 minutes, a long commitment.
Yeah. Here's this Boston over here. I'm gonna just listen to this, and then I'll listen to it after this. And then I go from Boston to America, and I'm like, okay, now I'm listening to this type of music.
Okay, I'm gonna make this easier on you. Instead of going with that album,
no, I'm in. No, I promise you. Like I got Close to the Edge right here, and I just added it on my Spotify. Like I'm getting ready to experience.
Do that.
Talk you out.
But I think this happens. What you're describing happens to a lot of people because it happened to me for years.
Okay.
The more accessible Yes album would be 90125 because that's got songs that pretty much everybody's heard before. That's got Owner of a Lonely Heart, and it's got Changes, what is it? Changes, Owner of a Lonely Heart.
Is Changes
Hold On?
No,
that's David Bowie. And Hold On. Or Fragile, which has Long Distance Run Around, and then Roundabout on it. You could do either one of those two. Okay. But either way, the reason I mentioned this one is because that song is so wild, and it is one of the best songs I've ever heard.
I'm down. That's what I'm doing. After Close to the Edge, I'll look into 90125 because it was my birth year.
Is that right? Yeah, it was 1983. Yeah, me too.
Without a doubt, I'm doing your 1972's "Close to the Edge" by Yes.
That's my original recommendation. But if other people are having the problem that you have, which I had as well, the other two are much more accessible.
But we gotta broaden our horizons, you know. So like, I'm totally down with. I'm catching a flight to the West Coast, a 4-hour flight. So let's do some Yes. Let's jump into this.
Give it a shot. Dig into it. You're gonna struggle at the very beginning because the guitars are very dissonant.
Okay.
The guitar is intentionally very dissonant. You're gonna listen to it and you're gonna be like, "This sounds like a bunch of bees buzzing in my ear." Get through that part.
So let's close this thing out. We've got the Oklahoma City Thunder tomorrow.
Then
we got
favorite player.
Pacers on. Who's your favorite player?
SGA.
Yeah, I can't stand the guy. We got the Pacers on Saturday. And by the time we turn these mics on again, we'll be looking at a game with the New York Knicks and a little bit of revenge from ending our season. So give us your prediction. Thunder, Pacers, Knicks, and we'll get out of here.
OKC's tough, but I think we can beat them. I think we're going to lose to the Pacers, and I think we're going to beat the Knicks. We always have trouble with the Pacers.
Why lose to the Pacers?
Always have trouble with the Pacers.
I like that you just said that. They play a very fast, high tempo game. Rick Carlisle's all about that. and he has them in platoons. So he's got, all his starters with Miles Turner, and he's got a secondary group now. And Halliburton is just like, let's go. Let's just unleash it between Halliburton and Nembhard. I think they're going to be tough too. I do not want to just be like, oh, we can just pencil that in. So I don't want to give a prediction. I think Oklahoma. I think we should take that because they're younger.
Field healthy?
Who?
Is Buddy healthy?
Yeah, he was playing yesterday.
All right, he's tough. I mean, it has huge games against the Cavs too.
So Oklahoma City tomorrow. Jig said we're gonna win that. Pacers game Saturday. So. Jig said, watch out. We got a barn burner for our.
I think so.
Okay. The Oklahoma City game is a home opener, and then we play in Cleveland on Saturday.
I think they're going to take the Knicks. I think they're going to go into that one pissed off.
And that Knicks thing is a back-to-back. So we got them on Tuesday, and then we play them the very next night in New York.
They're going to win. Yep. Still think they're going to take it.
I think it's time to send a message. So
I think they're going to take that game.
Good, strong win for game one. The season is underway. We got to get some calls in here, Jig. We got to we'll do some call to actions on the board. Get some feedback on your early impressions of what we're seeing out there.
We got to work through the I'll work through the think tank because we got a lot of ideas in there. Okay. Maybe we double one of these up a little bit, take some suggestions, and do a call because we got a lot of great suggestions in there, and we'll get some of this stuff out on social media too. I've been hung up on work and life, so we'll get going with you guys a little more interaction.
All right. Signing off, Rubber Rim Job, Season 3, Episode 3. You know what I just realized? I didn't play my
It's basketball time
at the very beginning.
You can tag that onto the end.
Yeah, right? I'll impose it in. I just thought about it like, wait a minute, that's probably the reason why we messed up on that first recording because they wanted to give us a chance to get it right. So